Myself on now, so we're going to the party. Let's do it. What's up, guys?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Good morning.
Yeah, give us the radio voice intro, Jared.
The radio voice intro. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, to today's generals meeting where we will cover a myriad of topics. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Oh, nice.
So hit the like button, though, guys, and then subscribe if you haven't done that. Comments, ring the notification bell. At least on my channel, my stuff does not get served to my audience.
Are you broadcasting your channel too, Jared?
Oh, no. Let me do that right now.
Yeah, you can pop out.
I forgot that StreamYard added this option. I see it right here in the corner. Let's see if it just lets me go.
Does it let you do it simultaneously?
Yeah, it does. Oh, it makes me fill out all this stuff, like the thumbnail and whatnot. But yeah, this is a cool feature.
Yeah, it's good for you and me because it shows the cast to your audience and mine at the same time. Is Moff hopping in? Where's my phone?
I didn't see him respond in the forum there.
He said he might sit it out, but I know a few people might pop up. Is Bird up yet? Did anybody see him?
I have not.
All right. So we're kind of on location today. We're doing our annual Heroes Expedition, and that's all we'll say about it. We don't talk about the details. It's where we get together with a facilitator and work on our shit. The people that know because they're on the inside. The people that don't know are guessing right now. So you guys can guess. But we're at a secret location, a bat cave in the middle of nowhere. In fact, I barely even have a cell signal. But this is what we're up to. So what's been happening this week? Obviously, probably the first thing we have to talk about is probably the Top G release. Would you not say?
Yeah, that was a surprise. That came out of
Definitely.
nowhere. I saw that in the feed, and I was like, whoa, okay. There was no leading up to it, really, or no murmurs about that coming up.
Yeah. It was certainly a bit of a shock, but there were some predictions made by some people. So it's good that he's taking a step forward in the right direction and getting more of his freedom back. But it's still a bit of a shame that they stole it from him.
Hey, Bird.
Hey, man. You want to hop in on this, or
Yeah.
do you want to come in here, or do you want to do it from your room? Because if you're in here, you're probably going to get mic feedback.
Whoa.
Charles, I don't know why, but you sitting next to Rich, it looks like a parent-teacher conference.
Yes, you want to grab
down
a
to a
chair.
college professor. That's a compliment. You both ate really well.
But you'll be on camera.
Yeah, I'm his math tutor.
There you go.
Yeah, he's going to teach me violin later because
Yeah,
I suck at
exactly.
violin.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
he's
Yeah, I
teaching-
forgot you play violin.
He's teaching you how to drive, Charles.
Would you want to grab a chair?
Yeah.
Or?
I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, pull out my laptop.
The link is in the Heroes chat. So just leave your camera off, and I'll pull you in when it clicks.
Cool, sounds good.
Yeah. What else has been going on this week?
My son is off in Australia on vacation with his mom, and I told him Top G got released. He said it was the best news he got.
That's good.
Top G is on South Park, too. When they first brought him in the frame, I'm like, are they trying to do Andrew Tate there? And then he came back later in the show, and they gave him a different name, like, oh, the Romanian human trafficker. And I was like, that's pretty funny.
Sorry, did they incorporate him into a South Park episode?
Yeah, he didn't. He only had a few seconds of airtime, though. He was. They were on spring break. Randy wanted a bunch of hoes to come over to have like a real spring break party, and he's like, "Hey, we need more people for the party." And the pimp was Andrew Tate, but they gave him some weird name.
Oh, okay. All right, let's set it up this way. It looks like the widescreen's better. Might be one or two others that pop in too. Looks like Moff's at the gym. So, what else was on the trending this week? Obviously, the biggest news, I guess, Andrew getting house arrest, which seems like shit news, but it's actually better than sitting in a jail cell rotting in a fucking cubicle, right?
God,
Yeah.
that would suck.
I think between him, Trump, and Douglas McKay getting found guilty of making a meme in 2016. I'm not sure if you guys, it just confirms to me about the Matrix. You know, we sounded like conspiracy theorists 2 years ago, and now it's, I don't know if you saw the a lady who done something very similar to Douglas McKay. She set up a fake pro-Trump account and told Trump voters to go vote by text. Nothing happened to her, whereas this guy is facing 5 to 10 years in jail for making a meme.
Yeah, rules for thee, not for me. That's how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah,
That sounds about right.
yeah, sounds about right. So, whether, no matter where you are aligned politically, the matrix is there. It protects itself and it doesn't want people breaking out of the matrix. And, I told my son, I said, the only reason they went after Andrew Tate was because he was unplugging kids, high school kids like my son, from the matrix. They need him plugged in.
Yeah, it's. I get it. It's an unfortunate reality of the world today. Is you have to muffle your opinions and ideas because, like 50 years ago, you could say whatever you want in a room. Now, if you say things that they don't like because of the internet and because of amplification, it can spread far and wide. So this is how they handle you.
Well, it started from people getting easily offended, right?
Yeah.
So they don't really.
That's where it started.
They don't really have to defend
Just gotta
the
get some
arguments with facts or logic. They just feel offended, and then they can cancel you, or they can punch a Nazi, and suddenly violence is justifiable. And when people widely start to accept that premises, then the state will take advantage of that.
I watched interesting
Yeah, just
documentary lately that I found on Netflix, and I think I had my VPN on. I think it's on the U.S. Netflix too. Is there a baby there? You guys having a kid, a hero's journey baby?
No, that was my ringtone. Somebody was trying to call me, but
that'll get your attention. But I was watching a doc. I think it was last night that I watched it. It was on Netflix. It's the Abercrombie and Fitch doc, if you remember that brand. And me as a marketing guy, I was like, this would be really interesting. And my brother and I worked there a bit in like high school, my first year of college. So I thought, it'll be throwback. It'll be funny. It was a very interesting brand back in the day for those who remember it. And really at the end of it, all I got, it was obviously a Netflix production. So it was like really littered with kind of woke stuff. And as the doc went on, it became more and more woke. But at the very end, all I realized, like, okay, a bunch of woke, whiny people killed a brand because it targeted a demographic that they didn't agree with. And all these people had come on there like, yeah, I'm in charge of like the Asian Comedians Alliance of North America, or, I'm in charge of like Black entertainment, whatever. And then they come on like, well, Abercrombie, we don't like them because it targets good-looking young white guys in college. And I was just thinking that's kind of the weirdest thing. I don't really care now. I'm a little too old for the brand, anyways. But, but then I looked it up, and it looks like every other brand out there now. I'm like, are they still around? Yeah, they are. They're just irrelevant now.
Have you heard
Ryan Halliday, big marketer behind that brand?
Yeah. Have you heard?
Go ahead.
Have you heard of the brand FUBU? FUBU.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They're the exact same. What's wrong with that? People have different looks.
This isn't for me. I'm like, okay, then don't fucking wear it.
Yeah, exactly. Charles is keeping the waistcoat industry alive all on his own.
No
we don't criticize him for it.
It's like, it's for a bunch of preppy young white kids, and then some fat chick with a label down there, like a group she represents that clearly discriminates. I'm like, okay, can't you make your own brand? Do you have to have everything? Do we have to be putting fat people in fit people clothes? And I make this complaint too, because back when I was fat, it was really hard to find clothes. And then once I became fit, I'm like, I actually liked brands like Abercrombie because it was a bit wider in the shoulders and it kind of tighter on the bicep and tapers in on the sides. It's not flowy for like every other brand out there is for fat people. And so I kind of dug the brand for a little bit when I was like 18, 19, because it was a children's brand back in the day. But I was sitting there watching this, trying to remember, and I'm thinking, do you guys have to have everything? Do you have to destroy everything? They're trying to cancel Friends now. I saw in the memes because that's where I get my news. I'm like, Friends? That show is pretty innocuous.
Today, it would be considered too offensive for some people, and even back then, there's some folks that have blamed Friends for the general softening of the West, which is interesting because I saw something this morning where Jennifer Aniston said that they wouldn't be able to do a version of Friends today because it would be too offensive. But there's people that criticize Friends as being one of the pivotal points in history that has softened the West in such a sense, because really the guys in the show, like even Joey, as much of a player he was portrayed to be in the show, wasn't that masculine of a dude. He was still kind of like quirky.
Wet noodles.
Like
Yeah.
Bert.
Yeah, a little bit like
So, but no, Rich. To a serious point, a guy once said, "He who was sober in the nightclub at 2 a.m. is king," and he who was anyway masculine in today's modern society can also be king.
Yeah.
Because if we all go back to when we were all plugged in and when we were all trying to, I remember this in the 90s, and you probably remember it too, Rich. The younger guys don't, but this whole new man. There was a new man kind of on the scene who could do cooking and cleaning and all this shit, and was just kind of becoming a soft, subservient type of dude, and it was encouraged. And I can remember when we were plugged in, we were all trying to do that because we thought that's what women wanted, and then Chad would come along and just take the women right from under our nose.
Yeah, I need you to be emotionally vulnerable with me.
What's that?
No. Oh, like the 90s man, or the Irish mentioned, the new 90s man or the sensitive man. I grew up in the 90s, so I remember all that going around. And in mainstream culture, they'd kind of make fun of it, like your satirical cartoons or your sketch comedy shows. Back when you were allowed to have comedy, they're trying to cancel comedians now too, which is the weirdest thing, because those guys truly have a pulse on society, and I think that is necessary. It's dangerous if you try to cancel those folks.
Yes. And if you think for 1 minute that we're a bunch of guys talking conspiracy theories on the internet, if you listen to Michael Schellenberger, who's a liberal Democrat, on with Joe Rogan the other day, if you listen to that show and you don't believe that the Matrix is there and that these people try to control and silence everybody, then you're a moron.
Guys like Bill Mayer jumping in the mix too, and he's been pretty outspoken over the years. I mean, he rips on the conservative side of the aisle, but he's like, "Well, guys, we're going a little too far."
Yeah, and of course now he's a fascist as well. It's just like everyone's a fascist. My dog's a fascist.
You know what I thought was interesting? So that incident earlier in the week with this Tennessee shooter, let's say.
Yeah.
Goes into a school, does a typical thing, throws a hissy fit, doesn't know how to control their emotions, deal with rejection, deal with the realities of life.
Goes to a Christian school. I think that's an important detail to note.
It's a transgender woman.
Yeah.
So it's a he. And he went to that Christian school a few years ago.
Yeah. So obviously, some hard feelings there. And most of the time you're like thoughts and prayers to the children, the families, and the teachers. But the White House makes a public statement. The press secretary, what's her name? That lesbian girl, the black one?
Yeah. Underqualified.
the token press secretary?
Yeah, the token press secretary makes a public statement saying, from the White House, thoughts and prayers to the trans community, basically. Like, kids are killed, teachers are killed, violence by somebody clearly that's mentally ill, and then it's thoughts and prayers to the trans community. So this is the stance that your American government is taking on situations like this today. So pay attention, people.
That is a terrible response from a press person. At one point in a former life, I worked in like a PR capacity. We would have never briefed anyone to say anything remotely close to that publicly. That is a horrible response.
What's also scary is that CBS News or NBC News, somebody got hold of an internal memo, and it said they weren't allowed to use the word trans in their reporting of it. Now, if you go back to loads of mass shootings, and they'll start to look for stuff like NRA literature was found in the shooter's apartment, whereas now they're suppressing the trans shooters, they're suppressing this person's manifesto.
It'll be kind of interesting if they use he or she, because, there's clearly a narrative that wants to blame the patriarchy by assigning all school shooters as incels and men. But if they do that, they would be misgendering her in this particular story. So I can see their, damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Well, in that same CBS News article, they're saying the shooter's identity has not been confirmed by CBS News. As such, we should avoid any mention of it as it has no known relevance to the crime. should that change, we can and will revisit. That's a direct quote.
Well, that's
They're
the
telling
same
you
thing
right
you
there.
hear
They're just
about
gonna
Yeah,
change
but
Muslim grooming gangs in Europe, right? Oh,
yeah,
we're not sure
yeah,
about the ethnic or the religious identities of the perpetrators. You
yes.
hear that
And look,
all the time.
Or they say Asian. They say Asian. Like,
guys, guys, the Matrix is worldwide and it has a hold on everything and everyone. Where I'm originally from, Ireland, as you know, there's 32 counties. One of these counties is Wexford. Okay, it doesn't have any major cities in it or anything. But the headline in the local newspaper said Wexford man sentenced to 8 years for rape of a young girl. Okay, what they like Wexford man? He like did he
he
play
looks like
Gaelic
you.
football? Yeah, no, the guy was a sex offender that was released from prison in Moldova, and 2 days later he landed in Ireland without any background checks, and he attempted to rape a girl in Ireland. But they used the narrative from the press in Ireland was that he was living in the parish all his life and drinking in the local pub and playing Gaelic football and hurling and celebrating St. Patrick's Day. But they can't. Yeah. Hey, who's laughing? But I'm not giving you an Irish lesson, but the narrative is the same the world over. They can't let the narrative out of the bag that a Moldovan migrant to Ireland came in and tried to rape a young girl.
What do you guys think of this notion of the Trump indictment making him more popular for a presidential candidate?
I think that's correct.
Well, they
Yeah.
can make it more popular, but they will make sure that someone else is elected.
Yeah, they want him to get the Republican nomination. I think this is really, like before you might have called this view cynical, but I think I think in a general election, DeSantis is more electable than Trump. But I think the Dems want him to be the Republican powerhouse and want him to be the nominee because they think he's easily defeatable.
Well, I mean, either way, how often have you seen in Western politics any popular opinion on any issue being actually represented and implemented? Never.
Yeah, no kidding.
So what does it matter if someone is popular? He's not anointed by the powers that be. He will never be the president.
Yeah, they learned their lesson after 2016. I think 2016 they screwed up thinking like, oh, this guy's a joke. Oh, he's a meme. He's not going to go anywhere. And back on YouTube, you used to be able to watch the primary debate compilations where he was at the very end, and every debate he'd inch closer and closer. And he got to a point. He's like, oh, Jeb, oh, I see you way down there. I'm up here now. It's just hilarious, just breaking through the fourth wall, letting people know kind of all the back behind the scenes bullshit. And he made a mockery out of it, which is why I didn't like him at first too. I thought he was a joke, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to vote for Hillary, so all right, let's see what this guy can do. And I thought it was just funny, especially after years of Bush and then Obama. Like really, guys like me were kind of waiting for someone to break that paradigm or just give us something new.
Do you guys have any concern or thoughts around the notion of who gets elected to run countries these days? The fact that Justin Trudeau has been prime minister for so many terms now that we have Joe Biden, who's clearly a puppet.
Well, the deep state is what's running the government, right? I mean,
I've always seen the president as a puppet, to be honest.
Right. I mean, the people that are in charge are the head employees within various branches of the federal government, right? So, for example, if you look at the foreign policies, the neocons are running the show right now. Folks like Victoria Nuland, Anthony Blinken, Jake Sullivan. I mean, these people are not elected officials, and they sit in these offices making decisions, regardless of what Joe Biden says or thinks.
Anthony
right?
Fauci,
federal budget,
Lord Emperor, our
the
pandemic overlord.
That they all vote the same way because they have a vested interest in protecting their jobs and their income source, and their active investments in various defense industries and pharmaceuticals. You know, they have an entrenched interest in keeping in power. So whoever their candidates are has to agree with their policy platform and help them defend their interests. I mean, more than 50% of the U.S. GDP is going into that apparatus. You know, they are very powerful people.
Yeah, you certainly get the impression that lack a certain degree of control. Like there's people who've been saying for years avoiding that voting is nearly pointless at this stage. It's almost like an exercise in masturbation. You feel like you're doing something, but you're not really doing anything.
Yeah, so if you recall, right around November 2020, there was a sudden removal of whoever his name was, the Secretary of Defense, by Donald Trump. He quickly appointed somebody else who's only going to be the secretary for about 2 months, right, before he's out of office, because Joe Biden gets inaugurated. But the reason he did that was because they found out that there are voting tally servers, okay, counting votes right after the October election that were hosted out of Frankfurt Embassy as well as in Madrid, okay, that were run by the Pentagon to basically create fraudulent votes against Trump. And that's why he fired the Secretary of Defense to do his own investigation. I mean, that's a very rarely reported news, but you can still find it on Google. Like his own people are screwing his votes.
Well, I mean, you look at that guy, Vindman and Caramella. I mean, whoever ever gets elected again on the Republican side just needs to fire every single bureaucrat in the White House. Just fire them all, bring in his own, any political appointees, just get rid of them. But, you know, as I said, the matrix is very strong. And one of my political mentors years ago, one of the first things he told me, he says, this is the one lesson you have to learn about news media. They're not there to tell you what happens. They're there to prevent you from knowing what actually happens.
Right,
Yeah,
because
that's
they have a
exactly
vested interest.
Yeah.
It's not gonna. They're not gonna be fired. Like no amount of firing will do. You know, it takes total economic collapse, the hyperinflation of the dollar, where they couldn't afford paying themselves anymore, and then maybe some foreign enemies taking over parts or an internal civil war. I mean, it's gonna be that sort of thing to bring them to their knees.
It's always interesting because whenever I do like a podcast interview on somebody else's platform, it's okay, Rich. So what's the solution? You know, like how do we fix this problem? Because they see the problem. You know, they think it's embrace Christianity, have more kids. I don't see any opportunity to reverse the trend, to be honest with you. It's focus on yourself, draw a perimeter around the people that you care and love for, and develop the standardized mindset, which has worked for humans for millions of years. And it's us versus them. And it's not us versus them in a combative way. It's us, and let them do what they want. You know, just enjoy the decline. You know, in that sense.
Network, meet, and hang out with like-minded men who are unplugged.
Yeah, which is what we're doing. You know, this weekend here at this cottage. There's going to be a dozen people here today in total, and some of them are on this cast, staying anon because it's preferred for them, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't know if you guys want to chime in. Recent Dave.
Well, we were talking last night briefly about the importance and power of finding your people.
Yeah.
And this trip being a manifest, pretty good example of that. And then what do you do once you found your people, right? Because how long now has the 1% been in existence, Rich?
I think we're going on our fourth year.
Yeah, so I think, there's a life cycle, right, of groups and tribes and whatnot. And I'd be interested to hear from you where you think your tribe is now, where the group is now, and what you see kind of coming down the pike. I know we've had some conversations internally about how we think about who joins and how you're thinking about evolving the process and whatnot. I mean, that's a little bit more, not exactly what I was talking about, but that's also an interesting.
Yeah, there's going to be a revamp of the community, the structure, the onboarding methods, and all that sort of stuff. I've got some major projects I need to get out of the way before I, turn my focus. But one of the things that I think 50 made clear at some point was, I thought that a payment wall would be sufficient to keep out people that weren't willing to do work. Clearly, that's not enough. I think 50 said something along the lines of guys come in here sometimes and, pay the entrance fee and make a post or engage a few people in conversation. And then they're like, okay, when does the excellence start raining on me and the bitches and all the money and all that stuff? It's like, it doesn't work that way. It's
I've
It's
had
always
that
the guy.
discussion.
It's always the guys that make the grand overtures, like, "Oh, well, I came in here looking to level up in life, and I'm not getting much out of this, and we should do this and that." And then you click on their history, because in either the group, the top 1% or the 10% group, you can look at the members' history and how much they engage. There's always 0 comments, 0 likes, 0 engagement at all. And then they'll start hitting up people behind the scenes. And I've noticed that whenever someone's like, "Hey, I thought this was gonna be something else," you click on their name. It was like, dude, you have 0 engagement. You've gone to 0 meetups, 0 calls, 0 posts, not even a single like that you've given in this group.
Yeah.
Give it a try. Give it an honest to God effort for 90 days and see what then do for you.
I've had. Go ahead.
I said to Rich, and I said it should be mandatory for every new member of this group to reach out to 3 strangers and set up a phone call, a Zoom meeting with them. One of our guys who joined recently, a French guy, I think he's had a Zoom conversation with me. I know he was having a Zoom conversation with Charles. I knew what business he was in. He told us what business he was in, and we decided to connect him with another person in our group who's got a chain of medical facilities as well.
Now, who let him connect with Charles so early on? Come on now. Don't you know that's a level 2 introduction?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's got to get past the Irish boss first in the video game, and then get to the Asian boss with all the fancy moves. And then when he finally gets to gold level, he's got, Captain Beard from Canada is the big boss, the final boss.
Oh, I thought that was Captain Angry Bear.
Would you say?
Oh no, Captain Angry Bear is the second to last boss.
Okay.
And if you die at any point in the process, they send you down here with me. Yeah,
Captain Lovey Bear. You go down for loving in Mexico.
Yeah.
But no, it is a great point that sometimes cash isn't good for keeping people out. Like we went camping last year, and one of the guys from the 10% came with us, and he was eager to get involved. He was eager to help out with the camping, go on future trips. And we also had our recent ski trip, and we brought one of the newer, younger guys who he credited you with saving him, Rich, and he's he just wants to see he's in his mid-20s. He just wants to see what it can be like to be the best version of himself. And again, there's people coming to this group with the intention or with this notion that the best version of yourself is driving a McLaren and having a 10 on your arm. It's not. It's the best version of you. Okay.
Yeah. I've had this discussion with some friends in Eastern Europe, back where I'm from, and there's a bit of a cultural difference of flavor, right? In the sense that Eastern European countries are maybe 10, 15, 20 years behind from a wokeism point of view. So you still have the family unit, you still have that usual connection. Like, if I have an issue, I'm going to ask my dad, or I'm going to ask an uncle, or I'm going to ask a manly man, like, how do I solve this, and maybe get some advice, maybe not. But the point is that I try to explain to them what this is and how this feels, and there's nothing comparable locally. Like the notion of a group of men to advise with, to seek advice and to seek betterment is a bit awkward or different to them. They don't expect it, and they somehow expect it to be better than it is when they actually join, like waiting for women to rain on them or money, right? And I told them, like, hey, have you put in the work? Like, do you go to the gym at least 3 times a week? Do you watch what you eat? Are you trying to become a better man? I don't know, like at a basic level. And sometimes it's very hard to explain these common truths that we all know. So, regarding your earlier question, I think they need a bit of a crash course in what this is, because it's also the distance between what this group is and the rest of the world is bigger in Western Europe than it is in Eastern Europe, but it's less known or less seen in Eastern Europe.
I should
no,
also add a small
that makes
point,
sense.
and this is not to contradict what you said, Dragos.
Yeah.
It's very important to do your own work, and I think the process of earning that achievement is a reward in itself. But one also has to understand that even after you've done your best or done the work or chase excellence all the time, there's still some things in the world that you cannot get, despite how much you want them. So I think people need to also come to acceptance and have compassion for themselves when there is something that they just can't get, even though they want it.
I
Well,
totally agree with you.
Doing the work as a reward in itself.
he
I
who is
totally
not
agree
happy
with you.
with what he has will not be happy with what he desires.
I totally agree with you. And also, until you start doing the work, you're kind of disconnected from the real world. You don't know what's possible and what's not possible. Like after you start doing the work and you see just how far you are from um, where you want to be or where you imagine you should be, until you start doing the work, you don't know just how far that is, just how big the mountain of work that you need to put in is.
Well,
And you
what's that?
don't know if that's achievable or not.
What's
Or how
that
much it's
quote
worth
that you underestimate? That most people overestimate what they can get done in a year, and they vastly underestimate what they can get done in 5 and 10.
Yeah, yeah,
And I always tell people too in those positions,
Time's
just
greatest
get
question.
started. Start knocking off these micro goals because then you train your brain to know what it's like to see success, to have some wins, and then you can look further into the
exactly.
future. Because when I started this journey, it was more like, okay, I feel shitty day to day. I want to feel less shitty tomorrow and then less shitty the following day. And then you string like maybe 30, 60, 90 days like that together. Like, and then you look back over that time frame and you're like, wow, oh my God, look at all this progress I made. What can I do in a year? What can I do in 2 years? And now I'm at the point where I'm thinking like 15, 20 years down the line because you can see further into the future once you develop that process of I visualize myself being this person, living this lifestyle, this exact way. And then within a year, you're like, oh, here I am. I'm doing it. And I think a lot of guys don't. I mention this all the time on my channel too. A lot of guys don't know what success looks like. They know, okay, everything sucks. I want to be like top G. I'm like, well, it's going to take you a while to get there. Is that what you really want? A lot of times they don't even know what they really want. And then I ask guys, okay, well, I'd be much happier if I lived like you. It's like, what does that mean? What does that look like for you? How do you quantify that? What does success look like? And then that's where you guys mentioned you get guys in the groups where they're like, hey, I'm not seeing any progress. Or we had one recently, Rich, if you want to dive into this a bit, a guy who was in the top 1% group for a couple of years, always had excuses why nothing would work. He'd hit up members on the side, myself included, spend hours with him and just never listen to anyone's advice. We took him to the top 10% group. You're like, hey guy, you know, maybe you're not quite at the top 1% level. We'll come down here. It's like the minor leagues. We'll get you going, get some reps in, get you some wins. Then you can come back to top 1% group. And he did the same thing. He posted something the other day like, oh, I can't get chicks because my dick size. And we're like, dude, like, don't watch that stuff. We get very detailed responses. And it was always, yeah, but. And then it eventually got to the point like, hey, you know, we don't think you're ready for any of these groups at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, like to kind of explain that a little bit deeper, I'm going to try to be careful with my language because it's YouTube. I said that men love to complicate their life and justify why they do it. So back to your friend there from the 10% community that had 3 years to do the work and didn't do it and was obsessed with what he would define as deficiencies. So he felt like he didn't have a sufficient tool, and he would go looking for a post, Reddit post, where women were talking about the size of a man's tool and how the importance of it mattered to them so much. So he had set this image, this story, this narrative in his mind that he was too small. And then he went and got himself a device called a bathmate, which Sterling Cooper talks about, which is basically a penis pump, and started to use it, overused it, and abused it, and basically did permanent damage to himself. So
Oh shit.
in a situation where he wasn't deficient to begin with, because he mentioned, the starting size, which is slightly below average. You know, the average size worldwide, I think, is 6 inches or something like that. And then he went and broke himself, and now he can't use it at all. So it's a whole complicate life, justify why, and then he goes and complains about women and that it's broken and that he'll never be able to satisfy women. It's like, dude, you brought this entire vortex of bullshit on yourself.
They won't even see your member until you've already satisfied a woman mentally enough to get her in that situation. If she's excited enough, it doesn't really matter.
The problem is guys don't know how to get out of their own way.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dragos?
I wanted to point that out, that the size of your tool doesn't come into play until you get to the point where you're both naked. Like there's a few
but his
other
problem
steps.
is that his doesn't work anymore because he broke it by abuse.
It works 60% is what he said, which I don't know how you measure that.
Yeah, I don't know what that
means. Did it measure firmness, or I have no idea.
Either
All right, pulling up the range here. Pulling up the range.
Yeah, I'm 60% there. All right, what does that mean?
There's also the issue of limiting beliefs. I think that his issue would be that he had this limiting belief about himself. And it's like kind of like going to war. If you don't believe that you're going to win, there's no point in showing up.
Yeah.
Just like going. My dad has this saying about going fishing. If you don't believe you're going to catch fish, there's no point in going fishing. Like you need to show up and you need to like do the movements and go through the movements every single day. And sometimes you have some more luck, and sometimes you get better at it, and sometimes the planets align, and you score a 200-kilo fish, even though you're not expecting it, right?
You guys have heard the story about the wolf of light and the wolf of darkness?
Yeah, it depends which one you're gonna feed.
Yeah, so it's in a lot of movies and stories, throughout history. It's usually a positive encouragement note. It's like, you have your hero that's sort of going through his own hero's journey. There's a movie called Finding Joe. I think you can rent it online for a couple bucks. It's worth checking out, but it's almost like a fictional documentary about the hero's journey. And you see it all the time in movies. You see it in stuff like Star Wars, where, Luke Skywalker, he has this adversary, it's within himself, and then he goes and combats it, and he has to deal with his father at the end of it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the notion of the wolf of light and wolf of darkness, when it's told, is like, the question to the hero, becomes, which one wins? Is it the wolf of life or the wolf of darkness? And the answer is always, it's whichever one you feed.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're feeding dark thoughts, negativity, losing, not doing anything with your life, with your world, that's what you're going to get. And you're going to blame everybody else, and you're going to hate anybody else that overcomes those obstacles because they've done the work. And
the problem there, the default position that we don't realize is that you are feeding the wolf of darkness by default, by not making a decision, by not having a goal, by not having an intention, not having somewhere you're going. Society has put enough crap, culture has put enough crap in front of us that just by default we're feeding the wrong animal. And so it's not even good enough to just, be aware or to just exist. You have to have intention. Back to the point that Jaron was making at one point about putting in the work. You have to declare to yourself at least some level of what direction you want to go. So many people are just aimless, moving through life, just letting it happen to them. And frankly, we talk about kind of the toxicity of culture these days and how it's just, doing so much disservice to so many people. Culture doesn't want you to make a decision about what you want to be. And anything that they think you might want to be, they demonize and they paint as being undesirable, or they put enough sand in the gears to keep you just hesitant enough to make a commitment towards a certain direction. And that they've won. Once you have docile, undirected men flopping around in the wind, well, one, they're not men anymore, obviously. But, when you take the motivation away from males, and then how do you do that? Everything that a man might naturally be inclined to want to do, you highlight as bad, right? Fitness is connected to white supremacy, and money is evil, and
But listen, to take Jaron's point and Rob's point and put them together, some guys think that, I have to be jacked and I have to have lots of money sometimes the definition of success is not being the fat, lazy piece of shit you were last year. You know, that's all. That can be your success metric. Okay, you don't have to be top G. You just have to be not shittier than you were before.
Oh yeah, there's a mentality to get from 0 to 3, and then there's a mentality that you need to have in a mindset you need to have to get to 3 to 5. And then I think what's interesting in the 1% group is we've got a lot of people that are already at a certain level, and obviously this is self truth or self-evident. Self-evident that the farther you go, the harder it is to keep climbing. Right, the tree gets skinnier and skinnier at the top. There's fewer and fewer branches. The mountain gets steeper and steeper at the top. So you have to be increasing your mindset and your discipline on where you want to go the farther you get along. And that's an interesting concept that I think some of us in the 1% are dealing with. Okay, what's next? Where do we want to take what we already have?
Everybody in this house right now today that's going to be dealing with this shit all has some fucking and big stuff. Like there's, I mean, if you guys want to chime in and share your stories, it's up to you. But
yeah,
big fucking shit.
I do want to go back to Drago's talking about limiting beliefs. I think, and also believing in you can catch the fish or get the money or get the girl. I think the definition of confidence is to believe that you can do something that you haven't done before, is to bet on yourself. And there's an echo again.
I don't know.
Damn it. And to establish that confidence over time, it does indeed take doing the work, because oftentimes you don't see the results of doing the work immediately. And you are surprised by the things that you manage to get or accomplish. But eventually you're going to find that there are some limits which are not easily overcome, right? So to give a very blunt example, and for a long time I've been trying to come to terms with this. As an Asian man, I'm not particularly well received by certain women in the United States, and oftentimes the rejections are very blunt. They're very blatant, and I have come to terms to know that this has nothing to do with me, because I'm in good shape. I make great money. I'm pretty decent looking, and I'm 6 feet tall. I have just about all the 6'6". So I have to have compassion on myself for who I am born, who I am. Having done all the things that I can already do to max out myself, but then the things that I cannot easily get, I just have to accept it and relieve myself of that pressure, right? I can go and do something else. If I keep on hitting against the wall, the solution is not to keep hitting against it. It's to go around it, right? To go somewhere to reach my destination. And I think apart from building confidence, an essential element of building to that confidence is also to have compassion on yourself and not to be too hard on things that you cannot change.
I want to touch on this a little bit too. We talk about doing the work a lot, but there's kind of an antithesis to that, and that is looking for shortcuts. That's the opposite of gaining that confidence and doing the work, is just finding the easy way to get some short goal, using it. I don't want to pick on the guy too much, but using effectively a penis pump to get you somewhere with the girls. None of the girls are even going to know, right? Looking for shortcuts is going to actually cut your confidence, I think, in the long run. It's going to take that work out of your sales.
Well, we have to be honest too. I mean, there are shortcuts out there. There are these sirens that call to us, right? I mean, we've all heard the crypto millionaire story, right? But the reality is that looking for them takes a lot of time. Most of them are dead ends. Most of them have booby traps on them. So you have to know that if that's your path, if you're trying to go that direction, it's fraught with risk. And so, because if we just pretend like there are no shortcuts, so we just act like, oh, no one ever gets lucky, that's not truthful. And then that creates a dissonance in our mind. But it's a lot fewer people than you think actually make it that way, a minute number. and social media does no good for us in that way. It's just in that social media does no good for the average culture space. It's just promotion of whether it's entrepreneur porn or shortcut porn or it's the Kardashians. We
That's a
have
great
our own
point.
flavor in our community of crap content too that's not serving us, and the wisdom to be able to see the difference between those and how you decide to navigate it. I think you should have some eggs in the shortcut basket in the sense of some easy wins, but you need to have way more eggs in putting the work in, paying the dues, as Rich said. And I agree, Rich, if you don't say paying the dues at the end, you didn't actually pay them. So I'm starting to incorporate that. And, but I'd be curious to other people's thoughts about kind of that
That's a
that
great point,
element.
Rob. I think just if you take me, I was 6 weeks ago I started going to the gym. This is the longest stretch I've ever gone to the gym in my entire life, and it's because of joining this group and you guys telling me get my ass to the gym. Now I naturally fell into the trap of like, why am I seeing results after 2 weeks or 3 weeks? And every single person here who goes to the gym who's in the group was like, it is a long, long journey. Do not, you'll fall off the wagon, you'll get injured. Don't try and push too hard. I hurt my back 2 weeks ago. It's on the mend now. But every single person in this group who was the top physique all said the same thing to me. Long, slow journey. Do not push. There's no shortcut. No shortcut there. You have to put the work in over the long term. And it's been great.
Yeah, give yourself 10,
The
20 years in the
journey-
gym, and then once you're at that age when you're getting older, then you'll start to notice very quickly you separate yourself from your peers. Like I lost all my weight when I was like 17 years old, been in the gym almost 20 years. I'll be 36 in a couple weeks, and I look at guys around me, guys I grew up with, guys that are like the jacked guys, the cool guys. When I go home and I see them, like, oh my God, like they train like most guys in their early 20s, 22, 23, get out of college, get out of the military, start working a trade or whatever it is they do. And then they just slowly let their physique go. So over 20 years, I've slowly improved while they've slowly let their just kind of get a little sloppy year over year. And then you take that snapshot, you look 20 years later and you're like, oh my God. So you'll start seeing results again over the longer term when you start noticing, like, I don't look like guys my age. And you already don't. You've already taken really good care of yourself. You must just be genetically gifted to her. Like you weren't a big fatty or anything for having never gone to the gym 6 weeks continuously. That's quite impressive. So 20 years from now, you're gonna go into your golden years very, very nicely.
I won the eating competition in college 2 years running. I beat the football team. So I have the ability. I have the ability to go there, but I'm not.
I used to always win those. Yeah, those were fun.
So and again, there's no shortcut.
I used to be one of the people looking for shortcuts. I'm guilty of that. I used to do that. It took me a while to not look for shortcuts in my relationships with my family, with the women in my life, with my relationship with training and my body. I used to do all that, and I can tell you that until I embraced the mindset that the journey itself is the reward, not only the result, the results didn't come.
Well, how about this? No one talks about this. For example, I'm an admin in the top 10% group, and we'll get guys. There are a lot of guys that are doing really good work, but you'll still get the mindset like, oh, it's tough, or you get these little excuses. I don't have the time. I don't have the money, the common ones. Oh, the significant others being a pain in my ass. But I never understand, because when I started this, I embraced the journey. I enjoyed the journey for the journey itself. And then sometimes you'll get too sucked into it. You take a step back. I feel like this all the time. Like, I'm overworking myself, and then I feel like I'm not working hard enough. I feel guilty for going out and having a good time, or going and seeing my friends, or maybe seeing my family, and then I'm right back in work mode, and then string a few days out together. I'm like, okay, am I overworked? Am I underworked? What am I doing here? But I take a step back outside of myself, and I look at things objectively. Like, God, I've made a ton of progress, and it's really quite fun. It's like I went from here to here. Now I'm here. What's next? Like I see my whole life as a journey. So what can we do next? Like, you've already done all this and you're just getting started. What's over the horizon? And I've always embraced that mindset to where it doesn't really suck that much. It's kind of it's quite enjoyable.
That's right.
Like
I didn't
I
have
did
dra-
that about half an hour
at the
ago, by
beginning.
the way.
Yeah.
to Dragos's to Dragos's point, there are young men out there who think they'll pony up a few G's, join a man's group, they'll be on a party boat in Miami, and they'll get access to all the best chicks in the world, and they'll be dating hot chicks. No, if you haven't put in the work on yourself over a year or two to level up, that's not going to happen. It's
You're
not going to
gonna
happen
get there. You're
financially.
gonna get on the boat.
Yes, you'll get.
No,
All you
but
do
you're
is
gonna
get.
get on the boat. You're gonna pay for it. You're gonna do
Some type of scam or shit or whatever, you're gonna get there, and then nobody's gonna give you time of day, or some chick is
Yeah.
gonna drug you
Invisible.
into your watch or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't have the substance, you don't have the backing up. You're
Exactly
just,
that.
You're just
and
an
that was one of the things that I really learned, joining this group was the elimination of need.
Yeah, exactly.
If once you eliminate projecting need, you can walk on water. Yeah, look, I don't need that. I don't, and I had one of the guys who recently joined the 1% call me yesterday, and he was like, I don't want to sound stereotypical, but he had a lot of options for this weekend, and I was like, just go whatever you feel like. You've got abundance mentality, and the less enthusiasm you show, you won't be disrespectful, but they'll kind of get a hint that you're an in-demand person. And again, there's zero shortcuts.
Rather than the abundance mentality, when you truly have abundance, because I ran into this the other day where I was like, God, my life is so good in that department where I have amazing girls, I have amazing friends, I have amazing business colleagues that I'm starting to do new projects with. There's so much cool stuff going on that I need to take a step back and be like, all right, I need to start saying no more than I say yes to things. And that's again, I mentioned a lot of times guys don't know what success looks like, and sometimes I ask myself that question, but it's like opportunities. There's you get on this path and you just start opening doors for yourself rather than, again, the shortcut guy. Lottery winners are a good example. How many times have you heard someone wins whatever the jackpot is and they blow the money within a year because they don't have that financial muscle built. They don't know what it's like to have that amount of money or how to properly manage it.
So I wanted to speak to that point of the pain required to get the gains, to get the work. There's a clip out there somewhere on the interwebs I saw between that Twitch geek, that streamer Aiden, what's his name, Ross or something?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Tate Hayes is in.
Yeah, the guy that snuggled up to Tate, and he said something along the lines of, "What's the quickest way to get six-pack abs?" And Andrew said something along the lines of, "Why does it have to be quick? Why does it have to be easy? Why can't you fucking suffer? Like, why can't you do the work?" And it's like, this is the mindset, this is the mentality of most people out there today is, what's the quickest, easiest way for me to accomplish said goal? And there's no quick, easy way to accomplish anything big. Anything big requires sacrifice. It requires work. It requires discipline. It requires changing habits that are not aligned with the fucking goals of what you're trying to accomplish, and doing it over a consistent basis, including a prolonged period of time, if you're serious about the fucking goal. Because for most people, it's like, you can either have results or you can have excuses. You can't have both.
Yeah. To both of their benefit, there was a fantastic transformation made by Aiden Ross.
Well, he took it seriously. Like, I haven't seen this kid, but he doesn't look like a fat nerd anymore. Now he looks like he's cleaned himself up a little bit.
And Andrew went very hard on him.
You have to.
He wasn't easy.
You can't be soft on people. And I get flack for this all the time because I don't sugarcoat shit, right?
How did I end up in the gym?
How did you end up in the gym, 50? Tell everybody.
We were in the sauna and we were critiquing each other, and Rich Cooper turns around and goes, what weight are you? And I was like, 170 pounds. He goes, "You're skinny fat, get to the gym." So my plane landed when I got back home, and the following day I got to the gym, and I've been there for 6 weeks.
Good.
Yeah.
Why did I say that? Because when I surround myself with men, when I go places, I want competent men that look like that they can stand up and fight if shit goes down, right? And 50 is a fantastic chef, and we need that, in the group when we get together and do shit. But we We also need guys that have your back too. And I was afraid that our skinny fat friend might be fodder.
He's also got a bit of a mouth on him too, so it's fun when you go out with the friends that talk.
He does
shit.
have a
They're like,
mouth
oh
on him.
yeah,
Like,
my
I
buddy,
think that
my
50
buddy
will get us in
Jaron. I'm like,
trouble
no, not
at
me.
some point.
We already
He's gonna
did
get you in
before.
trouble.
You did, eh?
Yeah, in DC.
Well, and look, that's another way that society is robbing all of us, right? Because they tell us to not be honest, to worry about, you know, people's feelings first, not and reality second, and to soften our language, and you know, and that's one of the great things that doesn't exist in this group is people just, when we say call you on your shit, it doesn't mean, yes, sometimes it's the big shit, sometimes it's the big hangups that you have, other times it's just being real, having real conversations where we're not, you know, swimming in this muck of fakery that represents and categorizes so much of the experience outside of this group and just in society in general. I mean, your day-to-day interactions with people are just fake. They're fake on so many levels. And so that's one of the values that I've gotten from this group is having a space where that's not the case.
Mm.
I had that thought yesterday in the elevator. Came out. I have some guests in town. They came in real late. My neighbor came out with her dog, and we were doing small talk. And like Mexico's a cool culture because you know your neighbors. They're really in the community and stuff. But I noticed that and I enjoy small talk here more than I do in the U.S. because people in the U.S. like they have like a weird chip on their shoulder, an agenda. They're just kind of pissed off, and you can't tell if they're mentally all the way there. People here are just chill. But after she got off, the thought ran through my head, like most of my conversations with people, it's all small talk. And I use the term exchange pleasantries, but you're right. You barely scratch the surface level. You never really get to have much depth with the people in your day-to-day lives. So that's why I think it's very important to have panels like these or tribes like these, or I've got a good social group of guys down here. Charles, to your point, there's a couple Asian guys down here. We're kind of, me and some of the other guys that kind of got the game topic down here, we're kind of trying to coach them through it, and it's been an interesting process. We can definitely share notes with you when we get together there, but those relationships, you guys have to seek those relationships out actively and nurture those, and then compare those to your day-to-day interactions, even maybe with members in your family or your significant other or whomever you have in your life, that really a lot of times most people, they're kind of one-dimensional, and when you start developing new areas of yourself, it's not hard to be around them, but in my head, it's just kind of like I pull out the conversation script with stranger in elevator, and then you run through that, and then like, all right, I still really don't know this person who lives right next to me.
Did you guys want to table anything on this chat? Because we're gonna do a workout here before our facilitator gets here in a bit. Just wonder if there's anything you guys want to talk about that happened this week.
Crypto is on its way to recovering. So in the next few months, if anybody watching this is down on their altcoins, it might be a good moment for you to reposition yourselves. In the next few months, meaning up until maybe September.
What are you saying? To cash out profits?
I'm saying that some people have put themselves in a position, and I know this from my own consulting that I do, where they need the money, but they can't exit their positions because they're too down, right? They're too underwater. So if some of them are gonna increase in value because not all altcoins will jump, it might be a good time to take a look at that and see whether, even if you're, I don't know, 20, 30, 50% down, you could take some money out, and maybe you need it for something, and it could be a good moment because we could get another leg down until we go to the next year and new all-time highs.
But I mean, I think the reality is the next halving, the 2024 halving, will be the catalyst in the next bull market, or it should be anyway.
It is, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
I have a crypto question from someone who's not in too much into the crypto game. So the president of El Salvador seems like, he should get an honorary membership to the 1%, to be honest, just from what I've heard him saying. I mean, you should just throw it out there, Rich.
I don't know if he will respond to my DM.
Yeah, he might respond to your DM, but
next time I know people that.
Okay, so can you go down there and spend crypto like it's regular currency?
They
You
don't.
have these
They don't have
wallets.
the infrastructure in place yet. So if you go to like a local grocery store or something, like technically you can, but they don't have the technical infrastructure in place
Yeah.
yet. That might be changing. I go down there like once every year since I did my first big consulting gig down there, just to kind of check in on
Yeah.
things. And it's changing very quickly. So I haven't been there since
Yeah.
last summer. That might have changed.
There's a city where they have these. It's crypto friendly. It's Bitcoin friendly, and they have these wallets, some Lightning enabled Bitcoin wallets, where you can spend some of your crypto locally very fast with cheap fees. So that if you pay for coffee, the fees aren't more than the actual coffee, right? But it's something that I saw that it's made specifically for them. It's a type of wallet that they all use and you need to use as well. And I don't know if there are any security issues related to that. So
Okay.
if you're asking
Anytime in
if
this
it's
crypto
as
stuff.
easy as paying with a card, then in a specific local
I can
situation, it
find this
is.
when we come over here.
Yeah.
I got a crypto expert that wants to chime in on this before we wrap up.
Sure.
Hey guys.
Howdy.
Hey.
Yeah. So, what do you guys got questions on, or anything specifically with regards to, I guess, the next cycle coming up?
I said that we're probably gonna get a pump on altcoins this summer, and if some people are down on their position and want to de-risk in the next few months, is probably gonna be a good moment to do so if they don't want to wait for the next year until the next bull run.
Yeah, I mean, we're up over 50% from the lows on Bitcoin alone, and altcoins have exploded. Probably most of the top ones even have exploded about 300 to 500%. So now is probably a good time to scrape off, like you said, because
Yeah,
we're right now at 28K. You're hitting a 5-year resistance level on Bitcoin, and so it's something that you really need to take profits on, because it can swing easily the other way. There's a lot of factors in FUD, and for the most part, I would have thought that with the USDC issues with SVB Bank, all the FUD with Binance getting sued and everything else, I would have thought we would already be going down by now, but the market seems very resilient. But also the S&P 500 were correlated to that. So
yeah,
if the S&P starts to tank here in the next couple months, crypto hasn't decoupled with it yet. So you can expect another leg down. I don't know if we'll go below 20K, but I think we can go down from 28K to 20K, which is like another 20 to 30% drop. So yeah, I don't think that the fund starts really until 2024 on the halving, because crypto's also tied in with a 4-year cycle theory as well as the presidential cycles. So usually after the next election, that's when crypto kind of kick off in terms of its real run up. Yeah, Bitcoin and Ethereum are safe. So if you haven't really made money yet in crypto, you're not going to be making your 10x, 20x, 100x with just holding the top coins. You're going to have to go into the smaller, more risky ones if you really want to make your nest egg. But yeah,
the next question.
has time to accumulate for the next six to 12 months.
The next question was about El Salvador, and if you can spend crypto there, like going, I don't know, buying groceries with crypto.
You can, but a lot of the locals are against it because the educational part, they don't really understand it, as well as the transactions are still very slow because the Lightning Network and everything else that's developed for Bitcoin isn't really ready for consumer use. It will be in the next few years, but right now it's not really incorporated. So a lot of vendors are just don't want to really accept it still in El Salvador because of the issues they have with it. And they themselves, even if you own a grocery store and you accept Bitcoin, you can't go and use that to pay for most things in El Salvador, from what I understand so far.
Outside of some of the nicer neighborhoods in the capital there, a lot of them don't even have their like merchant processing set up yet. I know I carried a lot of cash around in that country. Like your chain grocery stores, all of your your international chain like McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King. It's kind of like Houston, Texas, where they just have every chain restaurant there, and it's all Americanized. But when you get outside of those circles, and I literally lived in a tiny little like circle in the middle of San Salvador, then once you get outside of there, it's mostly cash still. So I think you're right. There is some resistance from the locals, and a lot of normal people there. They don't make a lot of money either. So it's
Yeah.
all right. We don't even have cash to spend. Like they're not holding Bitcoin. I think it's more of a play to get foreigners down there because when I went down there to work, they rolled out the red carpet. There, it was still right when it was before they cleaned out all the gangs and stuff. So it's still pretty dangerous when I went there, and I was locked down in Kobe. I just wanted an adventure, but they rolled out the red carpet. They're like, oh my God, foreigners are coming down here and building call centers and outsourcing operations. So they treated me very well at that point. Again, I think that's probably changing. I haven't been there. I believe it was a play to get more foreign investment dollars down there. Kind of like Panama did back in the heyday of the powder trade.
Yeah, 100%. You kind of get the exposure and the light onto your country as being a hub for investment as well as technological development. So it's becoming one of the more progressive countries to operate in crypto-wise. But yeah, until the U.S. dollar or another major currency has a capitulation event, which the U.S. dollar seems to be struggling more and more as months go by. People will be forced to use alternative currencies, and people don't. It's in human nature not to switch or change your habits in terms of what you use in life until you've hit a crisis moment. So when the dollar or the traditional currency system hits that point, then I think crypto adoption will go mainstream. But I think we have a few years left before.
What do you guys think about that issue with the like we saw China, Russia, Iran, Brazil? There's a few countries that have decided that they're no longer going to trade oil in the U.S. dollar. That's a serious problem, is it not?
We'll have to see actually what that means and how long they can keep it up.
Well, it's the biggest threat to the petrodollar system, I think, coordinated at least ever. I mean, you had individual countries like Iraq, Libya, and others that wanted to enforce the gold standard for oil purchases, and they got invaded and bombed. But
yeah,
I don't think the U.S. can coordinate against all those countries at once. So, yeah, it's definitely a direct threat, but we'll see how it plays out.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna go get a workout done here before our facilitator arrives. But it was awesome seeing you guys and chopping it up, catching up on the weekly current events. We'll do next Saturday again, same time, same place. So we'll catch up with you guys later.
All right, have a fantastic trip, guys. Take care, be safe, and lean into the pain. That's
lean into the darkness.
Lean into it. Oh yeah, I'm jealous. You guys are gonna have a good time.
Yeah, there's always darkness, and there's always light after the darkness. So this is where we're going. We'll see you guys next time. All right.
Cheers.
Take care.